Hi, I'm Stephen Ham from Archery Supplies. This is the Meta DX, which I've been shooting all week, and I want to talk about that, and we're going to shoot some arrows and give you my results after a week. So the Meta DX, it's quieter, less vibration. Okay, so this is my views on the way I've felt shooting the bow. So when you shoot a recurve, the bow generally jumps forward in your hands and you feel some feedback. You used to feel the same with a compound. With this bow, due to the carbon design or due to the dampeners, I feel less force going forward. So we're going to shoot some arrows and I'm going to demonstrate that. Now this used to be the same with compounds before. Target compounds used to have the limbs pointing forward and the bow used to jump forward in your hands. Now the limbs are parallel and the bows pretty much sort of stay there. This bow feels, I'm going to say, not like a compound, but more like a compound than a recurve. So while it still rolls, because the balance is there, I don't feel the jumping forward that I feel with a normal recurve. It's quite dead in the hand. But it's very silent and I don't feel vibration. I don't know where these arrows go because I can't see that far. So this riser is 1380 grams. It's a little bit heavier than most of your normal Win & Wins and 100 grams heavier than the new Win & Win LX carbon riser, which looks like this but without the center dampener. It's a similar weight to my Fivics Argon, which is behind me, that I shoot. So I didn't really notice the difference in weight. It feels smoother to draw, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. It feels very light, and I understand that's a function of the limbs, and I can't tell you why that is. It just, for me, there just seems to be very little stress pulling this bow back. And that makes no sense whatsoever. The poundage I did test, it was at 47 and a little bit, holding weight, but it did feel, it feels substantially lighter for me. Right, so what I noticed, when I first tested this bow last week, I thought the grip was similar to the Fivics grips. And I was like, well, I'm going to shoot pretty much this the same as the Fivics because the grip is similar. Now, after shooting it for a week, I've come to the conclusion it's not. This around here is rounder than your Fivics grip in my view. Now, this is a Fivics grip, so here it's squarer. Now, you can see it's flatter here. Now, I find whether it's compound or recurve shooting, the grip is very, very important because if you change this position, you change where it goes on the target. So whether it's compound or recurve, the grip to me is everything. So when I say to Matthews, everyone rips your grip off because they don't like it, Matthews freak out. Look, everyone's ripping your grips off, they don't like them. And there's going to be some people who do, but we're just talking generally. So grip to me is very, very important. When I swap to Elite, I like the adjustments, but the grip I found really, really comfortable. And I just found that I was a lot more consistent with the grip, so it made my shooting a lot more consistent. And it was noticeable, the pin aimed steadier and my scores were, I'm going to say, they were pretty much the same, but they're more consistent. So my lows are a lot better than my lows of a normal bow. When I say a normal bow, another bow. And my highs were probably a little bit better. So because if you get that same grip all the time, you're going to shoot well, but if you change it, you're going to get different shots. So I don't know what this end's going to look like when I go down there, but I can tell you what happened during the week. Now, during the week when I shot, I would shoot 10s, but I wasn't as, and my finger things come loose. I wasn't as consistent Because what I would do if I would get my grip in the wrong position, I would get a stray arrow. So in one arrow at one end, I shot one arrow out to the blue in the 5. And it didn't feel like a bad shot. So normally if I'm slow off my release, the arrow shoots to the right, and if I pull away from my face, it shoots to the left. But this shot, it was clearly the grip. Well, that's the way it felt to me. And I really was struggling to feel the difference between one shot and the next in the grip. Okay, so I've tightened up the Playcaster tab. One of my customers said, I brought one of these tabs because you did the review and you said it was a good tab, and it is, but the screws come loose. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. None of them would come loose, and here it is coming loose in the video. It's the first tab to ever come loose, believe it or not. I've never had a screw come loose on a finger tab. So what I'm noticing with this grip is my hand position. I'm having, when I say trouble, it feels comfortable. It feels really comfortable. I feel like I'm in the same spot. And then when I release the shot, some of the arrows don't land in the same spot. So what I'm feeling with this grip, I'm feeling pressure there. I normally feel pressure there. I'm feeling pressure down here. So I'm getting pressure there and there. That was with that shot. So I'm getting pressure in different spots. Now this could be, look, Stephen, you're familiar with the Fivics grip because you've been shooting it for 5 years. Yes. However, I'm going to say that the first time I shot Fivics, when I did the review 5 years ago, I shot better. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so is it a grip thing with me? And every time I changed win and win, the grips were different. So it was very important for me to get a grip that I felt comfortable with. Oh, I think these are going to be rubbish anyway, because I can see a couple of arrows in blue. Look, they feel fine, and they probably look terrible in the video, but they feel fine. Now, Win and Win do make different grips for their bows, and different companies make different grips. The problem I have as a customer or as a seller, which grip is going to suit you. And it's very, very hard to know until you go and shoot the product and you use it for a number of times. In fact, one of our Olympian archers here, I'm told, is making grips for all bows. But it's like, how do you know which one will suit? And it's like you want him to produce like 10 grips for each bow, and then you sell the 10 grips. So then people can choose the grip they want. Now, yesterday I was shooting the Argon X because, honestly, for this week shooting the Meta, I've struggled. My scores have struggled. So I'm like, I started the week with an injury, so I was like, maybe it's the injury, maybe I just am not releasing well, maybe I'm not used to the bow. Okay, so what's the reason? Is it the setup? Is it the tune? Is it me? Is it just I'm not comfortable with the bow? I'm not familiar with the bow. Now I will say seems to be aiming in the middle nicely, like the sight pin seems steady. So what I find with the Argon, so I shot the Argon, the Fivics Argon. And I'm going to say yesterday I was on a pace to like a world-class score. I shot 59, 59 and maybe another 59. And I'm like, oh, this is the biggest score I've ever shot in my backyard, I will say, because some people say your backyard doesn't count, and that's okay for them. Then the nerves started running through me, and I don't know if it was nerves or sugar, or I just hadn't eaten for a while, but I felt shake in my legs. So then I shot a 7. Okay, but what I'm going to say is I shot a whole bunch of 10s. It was just, the form felt good, it felt crisp, the follow through felt good, it felt the same every time. And look, I finished with a 286, I think, which is still one of the best scores I've shot. Okay, my highest score I've ever shot in my backyard is a 291. I think at a nationals I've done a 280 towards a 285, I think. At nationals I generally shoot around a mid 270s, 277s. I've shot a couple of times. So towards 280s, I'm happy with 280s, right? And I'm going to say 260s used to be a winning score in this state. Okay, when I started shooting recurve. So I don't have high, when I say I don't have high expectations, recurve is hard, so I know how hard it is, and I'm just happy to be shooting. Now that one didn't feel the same to me. I felt like I hit a different spot on my face. Now part of the reason this is occurring for me is my shot process at the start. So I have a shot process where I load my arrow and I'll start thinking about the target. I get my grip. In the right position, then I start the pre-draw. That grip, I'm not confident in. I'm not confident that it's the same, and I'm not confident the arrow is going to go in the 10. With the Fivics, I'm not going to go at Fivics versus win and win. I'm not, and like if you think that's what I'm doing, I'm not. It's the familiarity, and it's for me. This is my experience. With the Fivics, I feel like when I shoot and do a good shot, it will go in the middle. That's how I feel. If I do a shitty shot, then it's going to go anywhere, right? I might even miss the target. I missed the target 3 times at the Nationals. But I shot lots of 10s. Okay, so I had lots of really good shots and a couple of really bad shots. I don't feel the confidence and that was just a terrible shot. I don't even know where that went. It doesn't even count because it was a terrible shot. I plucked the string out to the side. I'm not feeling the confidence. Now this can happen with a compound bow. It can happen with a release aid. It can happen with arrows. And it may be if you keep shooting, then it will start to feel more comfortable and you'll build your confidence levels. Right? So I've had many of bows I haven't liked at the start, and I start shooting them and I persevere, and then I eventually end up loving the bow. And a prime example was the PSC X Appeal. I did the first review and I go, I hate this grip. Like, just, it's awful. And then I was like, oh, let's go back to it and see if I can get my hand in that same position all the time. And then gradually I built. And I think I shot that bow for 2 to 3 years. Just go one more, right? So now what I'm not feeling is when I shoot a normal aluminium bow without dampness, with more force forward, the bow jumps in my hand and I can see the direction the bow moves in. So with the Fivics I shoot, the bow will rotate, it kind of rotates, and the stabilizer moves out to the left. Okay? Now it could be me torquing the bow or whatever, right? But it's got a set direction every time I shoot. The Meta DX, when I shoot this, it's thud. It's a thud. So I feel a thump forward, very little. And I couldn't even tell you where the bow moves. I couldn't tell you if it moves left or right. I feel like it moves straight, which is a good thing. With the Fivics, it kind of moves out like this. It moves straight, but not very much. So I don't have any reinforcement of my shot. With the Fivics, when I make the shot and it follows through and it moves out to the side and my body moves and things move in the same direction, I know it's going in the middle. I have a confidence. Now I may get that confidence with the win and win. Okay, so I'm up here at the target. So look, I put 3 arrows together, and honestly during the week I didn't group 3 arrows. I didn't group 2 arrows. They weren't touching. They were kind of scattered. And look, I've hit some, there's 3 10s there, there's another 10, there's 5 10s, right? But I would generally shoot like 2 10s and 3 9s, and I would shoot some rubbish. And one of the rubbish ones I assume was that one I went like this with. But I just wasn't getting the consistency to feel that I wanted to spend the $1,500 for one bow and then $1,500 for another bow, because I want to have 2 bows, one at a higher poundage, one at a lower poundage, and then probably get win-win limbs. When I was shooting scores with the Fivics on the same day, which are towards my best, and I was feeling very strong and very confident with. So I went from feeling very strong and confident with a bow to hesitant, and just the feel of the shot breaking. It's right. So when I started Recurve, and why I'm going through this, when I started Recurve, I didn't worry about the feel. I just made the shots, right? Because I worked on one thing at a time. So I might be working to keep this shoulder down. Like that time, I didn't feel like I kept the shoulder down because I'm worried about the hand grip, and then I'm worrying about too much because it's not familiar enough for me, right? So that was my sort of take. It's not familiar enough, so I'm worried about too much. I'm focusing on too much, and as a result, I was getting scores like this. This is pretty much how I shot during the week, but not as many 10s. And those scores would kind of rate me as a normal kind of club shooter, where I would normally rate as a better shooter, right? When I say a better shooter, one of the better shooters. The Australian record for a plus 50 recurve shooter shooting indoors, I think, is 286. And like I said, I shot that last night at home. So I was feeling confident. With this, I'm like, I don't want to put the time in, right? It's not that the bow's bad, because it's not. I really like the limb pockets. I like the adjustment. I'm more than happy with the grip, although the grip, I'm having trouble finding my comfort spot. Now, if you go into a shop and you go, well, I want to try the grips and see which one you like, that's all good. But until you shoot the bow for time, and until you work out how to hold that bow, you're not going to know, right? So if I was going to go, look, I want a win and win Meta DX because it's the best looking bow on the market. It's got less vibration, less noise. I like the concept. It's still techie. I like that. What I would do is I would start at close distance at 10 meters, and I would shoot lots and lots of arrows, right? It's volumes and volumes of arrows. And then I gradually work my way back to build confidence. And yeah, so for me, and then I think back to shooting the Fivics Scatty, which I shot 3 weeks ago. Every time I shot the Scatty, I shot a higher score than the Argon, which was a different grip than the Argon, but similar. And I shot better scores every time with the Scatty than I did with my Argon, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to buy a new bow. Where with this case, I shot, when I say significantly lower scores, on average around 10 points lower, sometimes more. That would be more than 10 lower than what I normally shoot, because normally they're in the gold. So I score bad shots too, because I'm kind of interested in, it doesn't worry me if I shoot bad shots, it just worries me about putting out volumes and making good shots. And what I'm trying to do is eliminate those shots where I surf stuff up. So the bad shots are important to me as well. So my summary of the Wiawis DX, look, I really like it. It's just with the grip, it is different to the Fivics, and I think it's different to the other win. I have shot, and the last win I shot was the win ATF, which was a metal riser, and I'm sure this grip is different to that. It's been a number of years since I shot it. But it'd be a matter of finding a grip where I was comfortable too. And if I was going to shoot this riser and have questions about the grip where I feel a different spot all the time, like I feel two spots, then I would look at fitting different grips to the bow. I've never, in all my years of shooting archery, I've never fitted a different grip to a bow. Because it's like, how do I know which grip I'm fitting? I'm just throwing money at something in a hope that it will suit me better instead of working out how to shoot this thing. So anyway, I'll leave it there. The Meta DX, $1,500, $1,550, brand new. I like the vibration, I like the look, I like the noise, I like the fittings. Win is a fantastic company. It looks beautiful, but for me, I am happy with the grip on the Fivics, and I'm happy with the feel. So for me, if I was to shoot win, I think I'd be shooting the aluminium riser. I'd have to look at the new Meta LX grip, because I said all the win grips are different on each of their bows, which makes it very hard for the shooters, because it's like, which grip's gonna feel right. But yeah, I don't mind the feeling of the bow sort of jumping forward in my hand as well. So however, that might be just in my head, because like I said, compounds used to be the same, where they used to jump forward and then they went parallel limbs where they just sit there, and people obviously shoot fine with that bow. So anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. That's my take on shooting the Meta DX for a week. But they have Win have lovely limbs, they have lovely products, they have great accessories. Pricing is generally pretty good, and I looked at the pricing on their limbs and stuff. In America, the limbs are more expensive than Hoyt, but in Australia, they're cheaper than Hoyt. So anyway, it might be to do, and I don't think it's got to do with the import tariffs yet, because I don't think those prices have been affected yet. It's probably more to do with minimum retail pricing and all that sort of stuff. That's what they sort of market up for. But anyway, I'll leave it there. That's the Meta DX, and I don't know what the rubbish is on the side, because I really couldn't see them when I shot. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.